Hi everyone and welcome to ViVoCAST, the official podcast of ViVoTech. ViVoTech are the IT team for you. No fuss, no hassle, simply making IT work for you and your business. Today I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by entrepreneur and businessman Paul Halloran. Today Paul will be talking to ViVoCAST about the highs and lows of business, the importance of keeping positive, focused and giving 110% in everything that we do. Paul's run a number of businesses across a number of verticals, including interior design, hospitality and entertainment. Paul then recently entered the world of politics as he looked to make a positive change to his local area. Paul's story is absolutely fascinating and one that I'm really excited to look at, and I hope you are too. So enjoy. Morning Paul, how are you?
I'm very well, Gareth. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Yeah, how are you doing with coronavirus and things? You and the family all well, and how are you keeping busy?
Yeah, we're fortunately very well, and I've furloughed myself from my business because my business, I need to be in people's properties and people's businesses, so that's obviously not an option. My wife's one of the guardian angels of this country. She's an NHS nurse. She's actually a school nurse, and she's now gone back on the front line, so she's out there. And yeah, we just self-isolating like everybody else, following the rules, going for those daily walks. And I'm a fairly philosophical kind of guy. It is what it is, and we have to follow the rules and the guidelines. And hopefully, at some point, we'll all definitely come out the other side of it, and maybe a little bit better for it, and a bit more philosophical about life, I would imagine, or I would hope so.
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to change the world. You know, I think that's for sure. So. Thanks for joining us. As I said, so obviously the ViVoCAST theme is all around journeys, and you know, having done my research on yourself, I think you've got a very interesting journey to talk us all through today. And so, can we go right back to the start for a young Paul Halloran? What was life like as a young lad for you? Family life, growing up in Batley.
It was interesting when you look back, when you kind of regress a little bit, as well as I certainly do. I'm sure other people do. Is you look back and you think about the things that you probably didn't have or the things that you did have, and a lot of people kind of want. I'm a big believer. A lot of people like to jump on bandwagons and paint themselves a picture of kind of humble beginnings and this and that. And you know, great. And from my point of view, I'd love to look back and say, yeah, my family were millionaires and we had this and we had nice holidays. But if I'm telling the truth, no, we didn't. Listen, I was born on a council estate in Batley. And it was a 3-bed council house, and I took my daughter there the other day, actually, just a bit of a leveler. I said we were out walking, and we went round, and I said, listen, that's where I used to live, and she was like, wow, you know, nothing wrong with it. Don't get me wrong, but when you look at it, even now when I look at the house, there was 8 people living in that 3-bedroom house. So we had my uncle living with us. It was crazy, you know. There's 5 kids, my uncle and my mum and dad. So, and I often look back and think, which bed did I sleep in? You know, because I must have been bed surfing. But yeah, it was humble. It was an humble beginning, but we were good people, and it was a good council estate. Everybody looked after the properties. Everybody knew each other, and it was a great grounding. And then, you know, my mum and dad split up when I was about 6 years of age. My dad moved out, and then my mother brought up 5 kids single-handedly, really, on her own. You know, and fortunately, we were ruled with a rod of iron. And in a good way, and we've all done pretty all right for ourselves, you know, really. You know, none of us have been in jail, and we've done all right. We've held down work, but we've got an ethic. She created an ethic in us, my mum. We were all grafters, and we've all been willing to work long hours and do what we need to do. So, but Staincliffe Estate, when I was a kid, were a brilliant place. And I often talk about it because people like my daughter or my kids will say, so where did you go on holiday? And I just laugh. I said, nobody went on holiday. I said, but I went on my own. It wasn't a place where somebody said, well, have you seen number 12? They're going to Ibiza and number 7's going to Torremolinos. No, that wasn't happening. We were just all on the estate as kids, and it was a great place. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, good. It's interesting because I think, you know, this is our 4th episode of ViVoCAST, and it's amazing. Every single person that we've had on talks about that work ethic and how it seems to be hand in hand with success. But so as a young lad, you went to St John Fisher's. What was school life like for you?
I love school. But I wasn't a great scholar in the fact that I didn't push myself. And if I'm being honest, I've kind of thought about this as well, because I don't think I'm sharpest tool in the box, but I don't think I'm thick either. But my mum had 5 kids, and she's passed away now, God bless her. But she probably even agree with this, because she even told me, she says, when I got to you, she'd 5 kids on her own. So imagine that, and it's challenging. And then when she got to me at the end, I just think she was holding down at one point 2 or 3 jobs as well. So she was tired. So when I used to come home with her before, I'd never, she'd not take an interest, but she was kind of like, didn't push me of what's happening at school. So I kind of became more into sport, and I did enough in me kind of in scholaring. I did enough not to get into any bother, but I've just never pushed myself. So it's always been a regret, because listen, I'll lay my cards on the table. I've no academic qualifications at all. I left school at 16, no idea what I wanted to do. So I've had to work hard, but that was just the nature of what it is. And I often think I should probably go back and do a few things and try and get some GCSEs, but maybe I'm a bit long in tooth. But then again, you never know. So I worked hard at school. I loved it, but Fishers has always been predominantly a good sports school, and especially a rugby league school. Yes. And I fell in love with rugby league when I was 11, and I'm still in love with it today. And that kept me sane, really. And I love going to school, and I loved playing rugby at school. It was brilliant. And for a lot of other lads as well, some of these lads who may have been slightly on the edge, as behavioural issues. Yeah. Rugby league kept them on the straight and narrow as well. So sport played a massive part in and still does in my life.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I mean, we, from a business perspective, we see it in life all the time. There's young lads and lasses that don't necessarily come out of school or college or whatever it might be with the qualifications that they want or they deserve, whatever it might be. What advice would you have for these young people that have got to past there, whether it's the GCSEs, whatever it might be, stage in their academic career, and the sort of thing that they aren't able to make it? What would you say to those young people that obviously you've had a very successful career, and as you've just said, you've had no academic qualification? So what advice would you give to somebody that's in that position now, Paul?
I believe obviously education is massive, and my sister, I've 3 sisters and I've 1 brother, and they all did, in various different ways, did well in education. One particular sister, was really into it, and set a stall out early days. My eldest sister, that she was going to go to university. Nobody in our family, unheard of, had gone to a university. And in like 1979, she went to Newcastle University, but she got a really good education. And she ended up being a main board director at a major supermarket, so that's a young lass from a council estate. Should never happen. But my advice to people really is, it's not around education with young people. My frustration is, and I don't want to sound like an old man, is be loyal, keep your promises, and be on time. And if you've got those 3 things going for you, straight away, you'll be okay. If you say you're going to do something, do it. And if you say it's 8 o'clock, when I used to coach the lads at rugby, if I say we're there at 6 o'clock, don't turn up at 1 minute past 6. Get there at 5 to 6. Get there at 10 to 6. But do not be late. I can't be doing it. And I can accept people being late. But at the end of the day, a lot of people is, I'll see you tomorrow. I'll be there at 12 o'clock. I'll come and give you a quote for this. I'll come and do that. And it doesn't happen. It's mind-blowing, really. And I just think if you're consistent in your approach, if you're in business and somebody's at the other end of the phone and you promise something and they put that phone down and they think, he'll do that. That's a massive skill, and it's a massive benefit to you as a human being. And it's there's a lot of people, we'll all deal with people who say, I'll follow through on this, I'll do this, and they don't do it. And it's I think you just got to be consistent in life.
No, you're absolutely right. I think a lot of successful businesses, it's not necessarily, like you say, it's not about academics, or it's not about even necessarily the level of talent behind the business. It's that almost ethos, right? It's that that personability and that trust, I guess, that you get when working with somebody.
And people, if you're running your own business, listen, you've got to have a personality, and people, it's cliche, but it's true. People buy from people. If you're selling a product and you have a similar kind of price or thereabouts, and your deliveries are the same as somebody else, why are they going to buy it from you? They're going to buy it from you because you're going to treat them with respect. You're going to deliver on your promises. And when there's an issue, you're going to resolve it. And do you know what? That's all people want. They don't need to be bumping into you on a Friday night and having a beer with them. That's great if you form a relationship with a customer, and that's fine. And I've done that. But at the end of the day, people just want to be told the truth, and they want things to happen as you say they're going to happen. and not get any BS.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. And it's certainly an ethos at ViVoCAST that we look to.
Sorry to cut over you again. I got asked to go to Fishers to do a bit of a presentation about a year and a half ago to the sixth form students, and it was about everybody that got in the room were people who had bad timekeeping issues. Amazingly, they all turned up on time, which were quite unusual for most of them. But I just stood up and spoke about that, and I just, people don't get it. People are flaky, and I use that term a lot. People are flaky, and I don't like flaky people, you know. And I try and not cut them out of my life, but I just try and deal with people who I know who are positive, who are happy, you know, who are not. Listen, we've all had issues, and we all have ongoing issues, but you know, turning up on time should not be an issue for anybody. You know, it's as simple as that.
Don't cost a thing.
No.
So it's interesting. So let's jump into your first business then, Paul. So I think before we talk about your business that's been ever present in your life since that point, what did you do straight out of school then in terms of finding your first job, and then what led into thinking, actually, I want to do this for myself?
Yeah, straight after school, I come from this is what I'm talking about, a family, and it's different now for me with my family, because we're not dictatorial, me and my wife, but we kind of have an interest in the fact of, you know, and support us kids and what they're doing and what they want to do. And ultimately, my ethos with my children is, look, are you going to be happy? Are you going to be happy? Because if you're not happy in work, you're dead in the water, because you've a long time. And you know what? If my son wants to be whatever, you know, I'm not even going to mention jobs. If he wants to do whatever, and he comes home, or my daughter comes home with a smile on their face, and they say, I'm loving life and this is great, well, that's great for me. So I've never had this kind of scenario with like parents who are, you have to go to university, you have to get a suit and tie on to be respected. It's all BS to me, is that. But so I'm flipping back to it. I got my first job. It was strange, really. I got a job. I left school at 16 and I went to work for Scopos Designs in Dewsbury, printing. And it was the biggest culture shock ever. The people were great, but I just thought, what am I doing here? I'm so far out my depth. And it was genuinely, I was 16, and I think I probably had depression for about 6 months. I've never been as kind of depressed in my life. And it wasn't the work environment, because, listen, lots of people were doing it, but it was just a culture shock to me. So this is where it flipped itself on my head. I went back to see the headmaster at Fishers and said, look, I've made a mistake. I want to come back and I'll get my head down. And really, the callousness of youth, I should have done. And as I was walking out of his office, I bumped into the rugby master, and he said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm coming back to school. And he said, we're playing Wigan on Wednesday away, you're in. I went, right, great. So I then did another year in sixth form, and I left, and I got what my mum had considered a dream job. I got a job with Marks and Spencer's. Like, it was like, you've arrived. If you work for Marks and Spencer's, because to be fair, Marks and Spencer's, you know, they didn't just take anybody on, do you know what I mean? And I got a job there in the warehouse, and then I did that for about a year and a half, and I always wanted something a bit different, so I applied for Kalon at the time, which is now PPG, as an administrator in the office, and I went, did the interview, and I always felt if I could get in front of people, you know, that I'd be okay, you know, I could probably sell myself. So I got in front of a lady called Ellen Rhodes, who passed away, God rest her soul. She was a great woman, Ellen, and she interviewed me and taught me a lot. You know, I worked for her for about a year, taught me a lot. And then I got offered a job selling on the road, and I went out selling paint and what they call sundries, wallpaper paste and things like that. So I hit the road and basically went national, you know, where if somebody, it was probably the lowest selling job you could get, but it was a great grounding, because if somebody in South Wales got sacked, or somebody left, or somebody was poorly, I'd go down to South Wales and then basically go into all their accounts and sell. And it was, that was my first, what I'd say my first proper job. And it was tough, that, because as a kind of like 21-year-old lad, 21-year-old, you know, driving 4 hours to get to South Wales, stopping away all week, and then going into places where you've never met anybody, they don't like you probably, you know, you're selling to them, and it was great, and I went all over the country doing that. And then after a year, I got promoted and got my own area, And then went on from there and did quite nicely at PPG Keeler. Yeah.
So what was the just talk me through the almost the epiphany moment then where you're in your job and you think to yourself, actually, I wouldn't mind running my own business. How did that come about, Paul?
Well, I used to go see a lot of accounts, and there was an account I saw. He had quite a few shops around Lancashire, and he was obviously making a lot of money. You know, you could see him making a lot of money, but it was how he did it was a little bit different. He was buying quality products, but pilot I sell it cheap, and in northern market towns. So I just thought this would work round by me. You know, there's no danger that this would work round by me. So I kind of thought to myself, I fancy setting up on my own. Which when I look back, listen, there's a bit of a juxtaposition here for me, because when I was leaving, I'd got offered an area manager's job, and I would have been, I think, one of the, if not the, certainly one of the youngest ever area managers in the company. So I have to thank my wife for this, because my wife obviously played a massive part in my life, and every good decision I've made has involved her, and every bad decision I've made is probably from my point of view. But I decided to leave, and really looking back now, I think, you know, it was a massive decision, because I was walking away from
very different, right?
A nice salary. I was on the road to maybe going further at PPG, hopefully, and doing what I was doing. But I left and set up on my own. And listen, I think I'll lay my cards on the table here. From a security and a financial point of view, there's been times where it's been, yeah, I should have done that. And there's other times where I thought, what have I done? You know, because if anybody ever tells you in business that it's all sweetness and roses, they're just liars, you know, because there's moments where you sit around your kitchen table with your head in your hands and you're thinking, what have I done? Yeah. And yeah, that security's been taken out of it. So for 30 odd years, I've just not lived by my wits, but you know, you're only ever a few, like with this coronavirus now, you're only ever a few weeks away from a bad situation. But that was the epiphany moment, yeah, where I thought, I want to work for myself, and I've always wanted to work for myself. But I could always take instruction as well. I've always been happy, and in the future, if I ever had to work for somebody else, it won't be an issue to me, because I can take instruction, you know, but I did like working for myself.
So in terms, I think obviously there's people here that are in business that'll be maybe in a scenario where they think to themselves, I'm thinking about setting up my own business. What, looking back at, and I know you've had numerous businesses, Paul, but if you could go back to a young Paul and give him some advice now on setting up for the first time, what would that be? Or maybe what would it be that you'd do different to what you did back then?
Well, I've had, in the interiors business, I've had two businesses. So my first business I set up with another guy, and I invited him in. He was a friend of mine, and listen, it just, if we're all being truthful, it didn't work out, you know, and sometimes you're both wanting the same end result, but you're going at it from a different direction. If I had my time again, and I'm sure he'd say the same, you know, that I'd have set up on my own. It was my idea anyway, so I just felt that I'm quite headstrong, and I felt I needed a bit of a sounding board to sometimes probably pull me back a little bit, you know. But I would say, if somebody wants to set up their own business, you need to do your due diligence, your break evens, you know, and look at what it is, but be very careful if you are going into business with somebody, you know, get yourself a partnership agreement and go for it. You know, ultimately, at the end of the day, I've always been a kind of, and this is, I'll refer a lot to my mum in this, because she's played a big part in my life. And listen, my mum, you know, was probably one of the most intelligent people I've ever met. She didn't have any qualifications, and my mum was a cleaner and a home help, you know, but it kind of like the advice she gave me, you know, were phenomenal going forward. And it was just kind of this scenario of and I'll quote Wayne Bennett here, a rugby league coach, don't die wondering. You know, I've always been like that. I've always kind of, when I've done things, I've done it and I've given it 110%. And some things have worked and some things haven't. Some things have failed, and, you know, and you look back and you think, yeah, you can pinpoint it. But you know what? I'm not gung-ho. I don't just do things on a whim. You know, it's all thought out. But at the end of the day, you can't win every battle, unfortunately. But at least sometimes you can look back and you say, yeah, I had a go at that. And I had a good go, because in life you can meet a lot of people, and you'll meet them in bars, and I call them Kenny Coulda-Beans. You know, they're going, well, if I hadn't have had a pulled hamstring, I'd have played for Leeds. And if I hadn't have had this, if my dad had been able to get off nights and drive me to football, I'd have been missed. It's bullshit. You know, you create your own destiny, don't you? And I've been a big believer that I've created my own destiny, and when it's worked, it's through me and a few other people, and when it's failed, it's probably down to me. But yeah, just go for it. Go for it. You've got to go. Yeah.
So talk us through this first business then. So you started First Choice Interiors.
Yeah.
What is that? I know that's a business that you're running today, Paul. Do you want to just tell us a bit about the company?
Well, my background was in paint, because obviously I'd worked for Kale on PPG. So it was essentially a paint and wallpaper shop. I got to know, very, very boring, but I got to know, it interested me at the time because it made me money. But selling inherently paint and wallpaper. But then obviously we moved on to fabrics and curtains and offering kind of like an interior design approach, you know. So we expanded the business, went into interior design, and that brings you bigger numbers and bigger margins, you know. And we just expanded from there really, and got into the softer side, and probably were perceived to have gone a bit more up market really in the products we sold, which we did really. You know, we got a bigger, wider catchment of people coming to see us, and did all right from it, you know, and just carried on from there.
And that business is still running today, right?
Yeah, that business is still running today, but I do a lot of work for universities now and schools, and we're into blinds, and I'm a good. One thing I can do is organise, and I'm a half decent project manager. I can't change a plug, me, you know. I can't. I'm not manual. I openly admit that. So I'll subcontract people in, and we'll do kitchens, we'll do bathrooms, we'll do anything really, anything to do with home interiors or source products. And we've never been afraid of taking on any challenges, and we've had some quite big jobs, you know, from various universities, and we just get on with it and do it, and deliver on time, on budget, and keep us promises.
Yeah. One thing that's I wanted to talk about next then really is you've had a few different involvements in different types of business. And I think that rings very true what you've just said about when you've made up your mind, you're at it, and you give it 110%. I can totally resonate with that. You then got involved in the nightclub scene. And for those people that are listening that are in the local area, it's Audio Deco in Batley. Some people have moved on now, but talk me through that. So you're interested, in your words, not mine, in boring paint. What happens then? Next thing you're a nightclub owner. How does that materialise, and what are the differences there from a business perspective?
Massive. I think I'm not. How can I put this? I'm not full of myself, but I reckon I could write a book on the nightclub game, and it'd be a bit of a bestseller, because it's the people you meet and the characters you meet it's mind blowing, because it is like you see sometimes on these films and stuff. But what appertained from that is there was a bar called Deco in Batley, and it wasn't. Listen, if we're all being honest, it wasn't doing particularly great. They'd spent a lot of money on it, you know, refurbing it, and they weren't hitting what they needed to it every week, nowhere near. And a pal of mine, I picked a phone up. A pal of mine was in that game. I won't mention any names, but he was in that game, and I said, "What's happening with Deco?" And he says, "It's not doing anything." He said, and the lady who owned it at the time but didn't work in it, was part of a bigger group. He said, "I think she might be willing to talk to you and let it go." So I made an appointment. She kind of knew me a little bit, and I kind of knew her. And I went along, met her general manager, who showed me around the business. And I went in. I remember it distinctly. I went in one Wednesday afternoon, and there was 3 or 4 guys who worked there. And their job on a Wednesday was to basically take all the beer in and clean the place and do everything. And I walked in. We were unannounced, and we opened the door and walked in, and they were just all kicking it like a football round inside. And I just thought, they won't last long. So I basically did a deal with her, and there was 2 floors. Downstairs was Deco, and upstairs was a floor which was used for private functions, although we weren't getting many private functions. But from minute one, my plan was to, and I didn't share this with them because there was no reason to share it with them, and I wanted to keep my cards close to my chest. From minute one, my plan was on the first, so there's a ground floor. The first floor was, it had a separate entrance, was to make that into a nightclub. So we'd have a 2-tier business. So essentially, the existing business was, from 7 till 11:30 on a night, and it was done. Shut the doors, wrap up, and go home. So I wanted a business that would run from 7 till 11:30, and then at 11:30, instead of them going somewhere else, they went straight upstairs, and we kept them till 5 o'clock. So we had 2 kicks at the cat, really. So we did a deal with them. I said, look, I'm going to refurb certain areas of it, and I managed to get quite a few months rent free on the rent. So essentially, I did a deal where I walked in not really paying a lot of money out, if the truth be told. We refurbed, put some toilets upstairs, a lot of bigger toilets in audio, and we'd taken over Deco, run that for about 3 or 4 months, and then on the May bank holiday in 2011, we opened audio, and you just couldn't move. And probably for 2.5 years, 3 years ongoing, you couldn't move in that place. And we had many kicks at the cat, and we brought some big DJs. It was like, obviously, house music. We brought some big DJs to the area, and we did very nicely out of it. And it was very successful, but the most stressful, fraught business ever.
I was going to ask that. So at the start, just this is certainly something that I'd be interested in. If you've got a failing business, which it was, I guess, when you walked through that on that Wednesday afternoon and you saw people kicking a football about.
Yeah.
What advice would you give, or what was the key to your success in turning around a business that was ultimately failing to being, in your words, a success with best DJs and so you can't move in a nightclub?
There's a lot of things, and a lot of other people take credit for this. Listen, I don't blow smoke, me, especially where my family are concerned, but like my son Elliot, he's a DJ, and the drive and the ideas he had was phenomenal, and I kind of employed lots of good people and listened to lots of good people, because I didn't know about house DJs and who to book. I had a good promoter, a guy called Dan Wagstaff down there, and we had good staff, and we all worked together. And it was a very young group of people. A lot of people I know I'd coached at rugby, who I knew were my son's friends who were employed, and I treat everybody with respect. But we put some disciplines in place. And the one thing I am good at, and I'll say this, and I don't blow smoke, but I'm a good buyer. I know how to buy product. So I was buying product in volume, and I was making big margins, but I was still competitive on selling it. And we invested big money in brands to come down and play. And we just did it, we flipped it really. Social media was phenomenal. And people I was fortunate that a lot of people knew me in Batley, and the parents of these kids were coming in knew me. And I like to think that they thought, well, Paul will run a decent place. So they'd no issues about saying, go down there. And we were local, and we knew as market, we knew what the people wanted, and it wasn't for everybody. Listen, it's a market town. It's rough and ready as Batley, and if we try and make a silk purse out of ourselves here, sometimes you'll make a mistake. Know your market, know what you are, and appeal to that market. At the end of the day, I'm not going to sell something that I like. You've got to sell something that your customers like, and that's what we did. But I tell you what, we worked our absolute proverbials off, because I still had my existing business as well at the same time. It was like I was, and in any business, any cash business, you've got to be there, because even sometimes, and it didn't happen with me. I was very lucky, so I'm not casting any aspersion on everybody who worked for me were great, but in any cash business, when there's a lot of money flying about, you've got to be on it. The first night we opened audio, my wife was on the till. I said, you go on the till. Every penny that goes through there, I know that you'll be buying handbags with it. So, but we just, we did it organically, really, and just worked hard out at it. And the funny thing was that at the end of it, when it probably wasn't as successful, we knew far more we were far better operators than we were at the beginning, when it was going through the roof. So it was strange days, really, but very hard work. Very hard work.
So you've touched on, that's all really interesting. You've touched on rugby league a number of times through the discussion so far. That's obviously played a big part in your life, and I know that your son's played as well. And it brings me on to the next part of your interesting journey, really, which, again, if you look at paint, nightclubs, the next step is another big shift. But again, it's just testament to what you've said. You throw yourself at something. So You know, you got involved with Alex Walmsley, who, you know, has played with his son, and then ended up becoming his agent ultimately to help him facilitate a move to where he's at now, St Helens, obviously in the Super League. Just talk me through that shift, Paul. How did that come about, and what gave you the confidence, and what a positive story really in throwing your hat, you know, throwing yourself into the hat for doing some agency stuff.
Well, I'll just clarify that I'm not his agent, but I'll go through the scenario of what happened.
Yeah, sure.
Alex was obviously at Celtic, and he was a year above. You know, I used to coach a team which I've two sons who both played there. You know, and one son were a rugby player, and one son wasn't a particular rugby player, but they all have their own skills. But Alex used to. There was him and a couple of other guys, Danny Crabtree and Alex, that they played in the year above. You know, for a very good friend of mine, Paul Halloran, who was a great bloke, great mentor, and great coach, and he should get a lot of credit for what he's done for Alex and put into Alex, as he has with all his other players. But what we used to do, we used to go to a boxing club in Keith Tate's boxing club in Cleckheaton, my team, on a Wednesday for a bit of beasting, really, you know, keep them fit. And Alex and Danny used to do extras, so they used to come with my team. So Alex got quite friendly with a few guys in the younger age. And then he played at Celtic. And from there, I remember coming out of, and it's factories, because my son will vouch for it. We were coming away from the boxing club one night, and I just turned to him, and Alex was probably about 18 then. And when Alex was kind of younger, he was a big kind of, a big lad, overweight lad, big overweight lad, and probably never pushed himself. And he was a late bloomer, a late developer, and there's lots of late developers in rugby league, and it's one of my hobby horses that some lads are wrote off at 16 years of age if you haven't got a scholarship at rugby league. It's garbage. So he was a late bloomer. But I did say to my son driving home one night, I said he'll play for Great Britain, will Alex? And he went, oh yeah, for amateurs. And I said, no, he'll play professionally for Great Britain, because he's got it. He's starting to see now. And at that time, he was starting to make a bit of an impact. So he played under Paul in the summer era. You know, Celtic went to summer rugby, and he was tearing trees up, really. A few other lads were as well, to be honest, but he was tearing trees up, and he was starting to develop. He went on to Leeds, got noticed there, playing for them. And then Batley came along, and Danny Morney, and I'll give another shout out to a guy called Danny Morn, another good friend of mine. Danny Morn got Alex to Batley and pushed and pushed and pushed. And there's a common thread that, you know, that they were all over Alex. Nobody were all over Alex. People were passing him up and saying, come on trial. Danny basically went to Batley and said, you need to sign this guy. So Alex signed for Batley. He had a season at Batley, tore trees up, were phenomenal, you know, played well, because he's done it through his own endeavours. You know, he's set his stall out to want to be a rugby league player. So that brings us to where we were talking about is I get a phone call. It's something like a Wednesday morning from Alex, rings me. And Alex had worked for me at the club, you know, behind the bar on £6 an hour. So right. I remember the days, Alex, remember them? And he used to be one on a Wednesday and take the beer in and stuff, you know. So he's always been a big unit, and he was valued down there as an employee. But I get a phone call on the Wednesday, and he said, St Helens have come in for me. And I said, all right. And he said, will you come with me? Will you come over? I'm going to sign a contract, and I'd like a bit of advice. And at the time, John Keir was the coach of Batley. So myself, John Keir, who mentored Alex as well, we went over to St Helens and met the board there, or met the chief executive, the chief executive put the contract to him and said, look, this, that and the other. And then me and Alex had a talk, and it wasn't the best contract in the world, I'll be honest with you. But how they structured it was quite right. They said, look, we're going to sign you, and we're going to send you back to Batley for the season to play on dual reg, because you won't be ready for us. So, and I'm saying to this chief executive, when Alex had gone out of the room, I said, he won't be going back to Batley, you know. But I think he just thought, this is his mate, you know, and he's obviously a big supporter of his. So he did the deal, and Alex said, what do you think? I said, we can negotiate here, Alex, and try and get you a better deal. I said, but I don't think you want to. I think you just want to be a professional rugby league player. I said, yeah. And you need to put your foot on the ladder. And I don't want to be the person that pushes too hard and blows your deal here. I said, ultimately, it's got to be right for you. So are you happy with that deal? And he said he was. And basically, it's when you meet the love of your life, and sometimes you get dewy-eyed. And it's dead easy for somebody to tell a few porkies and say, yeah, we walked in there and I managed to get him X. That didn't happen. You know, he signed the deal. He never went back to Batley on dual reg. And again, he tore it up in his first year at St Helens. And what they'd done, and with a great club of St Helens, in my opinion, because when we sat down with the chief exec, he said, look, this is what you're on. He says, we have no middle earners at this club. He says, you're either on this or you're a superstar and you're on X, Y, Z. He said, so if you do what we hope you'll do, we'll, you know, renegotiate your contract and we'll reward you accordingly, which has obviously happened. Yes. But that then takes us on to a flip side that he'd done his first year at St Helens and he needed player representation or player management. I don't like the term agent. It's too many different connotations. So he came to me, and only Alex can tell you this. He says, I want to get some, you know, I'm looking at getting a player manager. Now, I don't think for 1 minute, I'm not conceited enough to think for 1 minute we were suggesting, should you do it? I actually think maybe down the line, and a few people have said it to me, and Paul Halloran said it to me, he said, look, you should represent people because you know the game and you'd be good at it. And it's something I'd probably like to do. But at the minute, I've never took that step. But he asked me the question, did Alex? So my philosophies in life are, well, who's the biggest and who's the best? So at that time, Sam Burgess was probably, along with Sonny Bill Williams, was the biggest player in the world.
Indeed.
Because I know rugby league and I take a keen interest in it, I know the mechanics of it. I knew who represented Sam. Yeah. And it was a guy called Chris Casely, who was a senior partner in a law firm at Leeds. He'd represented Sam since being 16. So Chris's background is that he was the chairman of Bradford Bulls when we went to summer rugby and was world champion. So he had massive success with the Bradford Bulls, and then he walked away. But in the meantime, Chris, along with a guy called Maurice Lindsay, formed Super League Europe. And that's when it went to summer rugby in 95. And they were the architects of it. So he's probably forgot more about rugby league and contracts and dealing and negotiating with Sky and people like that than anybody else. So I knew that Chris was a senior partner in this law firm. So my philosophies are dead simple. Well, I'll write to him. So I can write an email, pretty eloquent when I'm writing, you know. So I wrote Chris, I found his email address off LinkedIn, and I just emailed him and said, you don't know me, you know, my name's Paul Halloran. I'm a friend of Alex Walmsley's. I believe he needs representation, and I believe you're the man to do it. Can we come and talk to you? That's paraphrasing, really. Within about 2 minutes, ping, my email came back. Paul, I'd love to see you both. You know, so we went along and we saw Chris at his palatial offices in Leeds. It was all a bit not intimidating. I mean, these lovely big glass offices. And Chris sat there and I said, listen, I'm going to lay my cards on the table, Chris. I'm not here. I don't want to, listen, I'm not a saint, but I'm telling you the truth. I said, I do not want a penny out of this. I've never had a penny out of it because I didn't want it. I said, I'm not here to earn any money. I don't want any kickbacks. I said, I believe you're the best man to represent my mate. I said, and I think you'll do him right. I says, and I want you to represent him. And these are there's some kind of terms and conditions and this, that, and the other. So we sat down, we talked. He came back with a proposal and we said, we're not happy with that. You know, we'd prefer that to be that and this, that, and the other. And since that day, Chris has represented Alex all through his career. He's represented him in various different things, which I won't go into because it's private. But he's got him some fantastic contracts. He's negotiated. There's been clubs from Australia coming. And if he's representing the highest paid, my yardstick was, if he's representing the highest paid player in the world, he knows where all the money is. He knows. It's knowing in business. Sometimes when you're pitching and you're going in and you're saying, I want X, ultimately, that's kind of a figure plucked out the air sometimes because you're thinking, is that achievable? I mean, going back to like Johnny Howson and Seth Johnson, the famous story of him going in to see Peter Risdale with his agent and saying, you know, they're going in for 19 grand a week, and Peter Risdale says, I'll not pay any less than 35 grand a week. You know, straight away I said, well, we'll have a bit of that. But with Chris is going in to negotiate on Alex's behalf, knowing where the markers are and what the yardstick is. So he's able to get, because ultimately, at the end of the day, professional sport, and Alex knows this from he got a serious injury a few years ago. It's, you know, can be off on a flick of a switch. So whilst people aren't mercenary, you need to be earning good money, because your body, when you're in your 40s, a professional rugby league player now, especially in Alex's position, his body will be broken. So there has to be some recompense for that. So money is very important. It's not everything in life, but in that game it is. So Chris has ultimately represented Alex, as I say, and sometimes I have a couple of emails. We had a nice email exchange when Alex played for Great Britain, when he made his debut, and Chris was talking about, basically sent me an email saying, the day you walked in and here we are now, he said, and if you know it, if you've got any more running around, let me know. So I've had that input, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud that Alex has got good representation. He's now got a lovely partner, 2 children, lives in a beautiful house in over St Helens way, and he's done well in life, and that it gives me a warm glow. You know what I mean? And I have had something out of it. He once bought me lunch.
No such thing as a free lunch.
Yeah, but it is what it is, and ultimately, at the end of the day, people have got to trust you, and I like to think it's a commendation that he trusted me enough to try and find him somebody, and I think we got the best in the business. But a lot of people in life would say, "Oh, Chris, this is going back to like ask a question," and probably I'd say to some young people, going back to the original conversation, is, well, if you don't ask, you'll never know. Well, they can only say no. So people would say, well, Sam Burgess's man won't represent you. You play for Batley. Well, why won't he? And he does. So it's worked. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I think it's testament to what you said earlier, Paul, really, about, in business, do what you say you're going to do. And I think, obviously your first experience with Chris was sending him an email out of blue and getting a very quick response back, right? And I guess that gave you that immediate feeling. No matter knowing how good he was is one thing, but I guess when you get a response so quickly, you're thinking this guy's on the ball. It gives you that good feeling, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think you've got to conduct yourself right in life, and you've got to be, it's like you're saying, keep your promises. And one of the big things going back to Chris's email that I wrote him was, this guy is clean living. He will not give you any problems, because if you're a player manager and you've got a player on your hands and he's a nightmare, and he's getting in at 5 a.m. when he should be on lockdown, or when he's on curfew for his club, and he's out in nightclubs and he's carrying on, all the money in the world for the player manager ain't worth that drama. And I said to him, you'll not have a moment's bother. Again, he's not a saint. He's a good lad, but he's fully focused on his rugby and achieving, and he was ambitious, and he did that, and it's been it's a win-win, because everything we said has come true, and everything Chris has said has come true, and the deals Chris has done for him, I can't go into certain stuff, but the mechanics, and I love the mechanics of all that. That's what intrigues me. So I've been very privileged, because I've seen lots of emails with lots of figures and lots of offers from Australia, and I've seen Alex has sent me stuff saying, what about this? And there's clubs from Australia, and they're offering serious money, and these are the terms, and this is the deal, and if you play so many matches, it's quite interesting, and ultimately, Chris has administered all that and put him on the right path, and he's done all right out of it, and it's been good for them both.
Yeah, it's amazing, and he's doing very well, obviously. So, I mean, let's come back to you, Paul, if we can. So again, we take another shift, and obviously one thing that's been, well, I think from our conversation so far, there's been 2 things that have been absolutely ever present in your life other than your business is rugby league, but secondly, where you're from, and you're very proud of where you're from. You've spoken very warmly about, your family and your upbringing, which is brilliant. And I guess at this stage, you've had some success in business in different guises, whether it's to put it bluntly, the paint, the rugby, or the nightclub stuff. At this point, talk me through where you start looking at politics, and you think, I'm guessing the thought, I don't know this, but I'm guessing the thought is, I'd like to give something back to this place that I'm from and make it a better place. Again, this almost epiphany moment. When did you start thinking about politics and wanting to take sort of that route?
I've always been interested in politics, but I'm not a politician, and I don't like it when people say, "Oh, you wanted to be a politician." I don't. I wanted to be a representative, and I don't. I tell you what drives me and fuels me is hypocrisy, And listen, people watching this, or there's plenty of people don't like me. That's fine, because you know what? If everybody likes you or everybody hates you, you're doing something wrong. You know, you're going to have people that agree with you and don't agree with you. That's the nature of the beast, and I can live with that. But what I can't do, and hopefully I'm not an hypocrite, and the town's on its knees. You know, the area's on its knees. Batley and Spen, which ultimately I stood for to be an MP. It's on its knees, and I think there's division, and division's created by people, you know, and it's wrong, and we need to heal that division, but also we need to feel that people are representative with the best interests of the constituents at heart, and that's what fueled me. And I'm a big believer. The reason I did it is I was quite active on Facebook, and I just started really not ranting, because there weren't rants. I'm hopefully eloquent enough to put out a coherent post, and you know, I don't rant. And I'm not a big drinker, so I certainly don't go online when I've had a drink like some people do, you know. So I was putting posts out, and then a couple of posts I put public, and they started gathering momentum, and it got not semi-viral really, some of the stuff where people were saying, you should do this, you should do that. And I kept posting and putting things, and then eventually going back to my mum, really, you know, it's like you put up or shut up here, you know, and I'm a big believer in that, you know. You've got to be willing to fall on your sword in life sometimes and stand up. And I kind of thought, this is probably one of the biggest decisions that will ever involve me and my family, but my family especially, is if you put your head above the parapet, even at local council, get ready for what's coming, because social media drives that now, and the cowards that are on social media drive that, and that's fine, you know, and they can have a pop at me all they want, but not at my family. And I just thought I'll stand up to be counted, because I didn't want to die wondering. I didn't want to get to be an old man. I didn't want to be one of these old men sat in a working man's club or a pub and saying, you know, if I'd have stood, I'd have won me. No, and I'm not scared of failure. I don't like it, but the fear of failure drives me. But when it happens, it's life, you know. And I keep going back to this scenario of, if anybody tells you all they've ever done is have successes, they're a liar, you know. So everybody wants to talk about the successes. I'm not unique, but I'm more than willing to talk about my failures. But do you know what? I stood up and I put myself there, and I had the balls to do it, and I'm proud of myself for that, you know. And a few other people are, but my family, massive, you know, and my wife again, because dead easy. There's 99% of people would have said, don't do this. And ultimately, when I was wavering, thinking, should I do it? It was my wife who said, you need to do it, because if you don't, you'll regret it. And
Sorry to cut across you, Paul. It's interesting because, as I say, on last week's episode with Johnny Howson, he spoke about very fondly about the support structure he had with his family, and it sounds very much like that's exactly the same for you. How important is that family being for you?
Everything, and I don't want to get too schmaltzy about this, but it's everything, because listen, the last kind of when I stood for council in May through to eventually standing as an MP in December, people, you know, they can look from the outside in and say, oh great, you've done this, Paul, you've said that. There's some bad times involving me and my family, some of the trolling that went on, absolute lies, cut and paste bullshit that was out there. But at the end of the day, my family was there to support me. My son, Elliot, again, my other lad lives in New Zealand, you know, so he wasn't as involved in it, our Sam, but my daughter, but Elliot especially drove all the social media massively behind me, and you know, without him, I definitely couldn't have done it. The supporters, we had a little network team round us who were brilliant, friends for life who I've had who were there saying, you know, and you find out who your friends are in tough times. It's a cliche again, but I tell you what, you do. And I've found out that all the people who I thought were friends are friends. I'm very blessed in that. But my family and my wife, we've had some dark moments, you know, and some, it's not nice to read stuff that's not true. You know, I can handle that, but when it affects my family, it's not good. But yeah, my family were there. They've always been behind me, and I couldn't do anything without them. And one of the reasons that I didn't stand earlier for politics was my daughter was 14, 15, 16 at the time. So I wouldn't put her through that. When she got to 17, we sat down as a family and discussed it and said, look, I'm going to maybe stand. What do you think? And all my family said, yeah. I went to see my in-laws. I saw my sisters and things and said, look, this is what I'm thinking of doing, you know, but if any one person, and I won't hold it against you, but if anybody says I don't want you to do it, I wouldn't have done it, because my family are more important to me than anything else. So I wouldn't have done it, but unequivocally, everybody said, yeah, do it. And I was driven a little bit by kind of like that. My mum's philosophy is that, yeah, she'd always take a challenge on and say, yeah, get it done, you know, don't die wondering.
Yeah, and what a nice thing, he's still living there. What a nice thing to change the future for your kids as well, I guess, right?
Well, yeah, listen, this area's got many challenges, and it's kind of like the old Jack Nicholson, innit? You know, it's people don't like the truth, but that's no reason not to tell them. I'm paraphrasing there, but this is what's, you know, what is in front of our eyes is in front of our eyes, you know,
yeah.
And we need to have open and honest debate and go from there. And like I always say, if I'm telling a lie, somebody's going to sue me. You know, they're going to take me on and they're going to sue me. And they don't. They just try and discredit me, you know, because I'm obviously, when people are discrediting you, you know, when they smear you, they fear you. That's a phrase I coined, you know what I mean? Probably pinched it from somewhere. But it's true. So if people are really attacking you because they see you as a threat, and you're obviously, you know, you're having some impact. But I don't want to be, I've never wanted to be seen as this kind of demigod of the local area and this figurehead of, oh, what's Paul said today? I am just a bloke that gives a proverbial, like many people do. But I've got a bit of a platform now, you know, and my page has a platform. So I need to use that constructively, and I need to use it in a manner that is not over the top, you know, that it's relevant to the area.
So it's an interesting point that you make, really, Paul. Obviously, social media, whether it's politics or not, it's a massive part of everyday life, whether it's business or just, you know, relationships, family, whatever it might be. You've obviously been at the forefront of the nasty side of that, in terms of the trolling and stuff, which you've touched on there. We won't go into any more detail than that, but no. From my sort of perspective, one of the things we're talking about on this is around positivity, and, you know, nothing's ever plain sailing all the time. How did you remain, both in politics and since then, positive when you're getting this level of negativity, let's just put it like that, from the outside world? Because
it's very easy for me. It's simple. Because for people, most of them are false accounts. The ones that aren't false accounts. And if I'm really honest, are people that I don't value their opinion whatsoever. They will not value my opinion whatsoever. Well, they'll say that, but they'll value my opinion so little that they'll feel the need to comment on it, which always makes me chuckle, which gives me, because I'm living rent-free in their heads. That's you know, that's a bit nasty to say that, but it's true. You know, if I'm having an impact on their lives, and I don't set out to do that, but I'll tell you now, they're having no impact on my life, because at the end of the day, these are the people who I'm not friends with, I wouldn't want to be friends with. It's a two-way street. They wouldn't want to be friends with me. So my friends that I've had since being one of the things I'm very, very proud of is I've still got the same mates that I had when I was 5-year-old. I've still got the same mates and fishers. I've still got the same mates who I formed my bonds with playing rugby. And we're like and it's another cliche, but it's still like a band of brothers. So all these people who are behind me, who are still supporting me, are my friends. The day they say to me, you've overstepped the mark, or we don't agree with you, I'll be crestfallen. And I'm hoping that day will never come. So they're supporting me. That's all that matters to me. I've got the same friendship group and the same supporters, and I value that. And I value their opinion. And they're a good sounding board for me, because make no mistake, they'll never, ever let me get ahead of myself. I wouldn't anyway, because I'm not that kind of person. But if I started becoming Billy Big, you know what I'm saying, they'd pull me straight back in line. My family would do that, you know, but I can stay positive, you know, and I can. Don't get me wrong. Listen, if I come on here and said I'm positive every day, I'd be a liar. You know, sometimes there's moments where you do get a little bit frustrated, to say the least. And what always makes me chuckle about keyboard warriors is the ones who I do know locally. I bumped into them a few times. Supermarkets. I bumped into one guy. It was funny. I went to watch Batley Rugby. I'm not going to mention any names, but I went to watch Batley, And this kid had been piping up at me on Facebook and giving it the big I am. And when I meet him, and I'm not afraid. And yeah, so I spotted him, and he was walking towards me, and he went. I'm not joking. He looked like Michael Jackson in his later years. He went that white. He just went ashen. This kid, and I just smirked at him and carried on walking. And I thought, job done. I don't need to engage with him. You know, I know what you're about, mate, and you need to pick your ass up because you've just fallen. You know what I mean? So that's what it is. And I'm not about to have a rumble with anybody. You know, I know what they're about, and I know what social media is. It's some non-entity in his mum's back bedroom, you know, just thinking he'll have a pop at somebody, and it is what it is. It's life. But when it affects, when they then attack your family, that's when they've crossed the line for me, and that's when, you know, it's fair game then. It's open season, as I would see it, because my job as a father and an husband, and listen, my family can protect themselves, but you've a duty of care to your family. You know, you're putting them in this shop window, you've got to then protect them because they didn't ask to be in that shop window. You know, it's me who's in the shop window, and I don't mind anybody having a pop, you know, providing it's non-libelous and it's you know, if they disagree on a level, have a pop at me and I debate accordingly. But some of the lies and smears about me are just infanticide. You know, it's just nonsense. But it's a dangerous game, because for me, if you're in business and somebody's smearing you, and one of your clients, let's say you're pitching for work with a new client, and they do a bit of due diligence on you, and read something and think, and don't then question you and just think, oh, that must be true. It's a dangerous game to be in. So politics is controlled by fear, and the reason you don't see many people like me ever standing up and standing for Parliament or standing for council is because they're just not as mentally deranged as I am. They're not willing to put themselves forward. And that's true. Why would you? Why would you want your whole personality, your family, to go through all that? And that's control. And it's done by the establishment. I don't want to get off on I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not going off on a rant now, but it's done where certain political parties will say, right, how can we attack him or her now and make them walk away? And you'll see lots of people, if you go through the history of like by-elections and different areas, lots of independent people who stood up and then walked away because they haven't got the mechanics or anything to be able to turn that narrative about them on its head and get the truth out there. And that's what they do. But with me, they haven't managed to do that yet. So we'll keep on.
Yeah, good luck to you. So, yeah, what's in terms of what's next then for Paul? This is we're in current day. Hopefully we're going to get to the back end of the coronavirus. I personally don't think life will go back to normal for some time from a business perspective. I think people have been slightly naive to think that everything's just going to jump back to normal. What's the next year or so looking like for Paul and for your business?
I think you're right. I think it's unprecedented times, and I don't think that there'll be many businesses getting back to where they were, and people have to reinvent themselves and look at other issues. And at the minute, I'm looking at something with a guy I know. It might be another business, you know, but it's a business that's very linked to coronavirus, and I can't say too much about it at the minute, but it could be decent for us. We're looking at supplying some certain products to certain people. And it's linked to this pandemic, and we're doing this due diligence on that now about pricing and what we can do. So I'm pretty excited about that, because I think it could be, out of this could come a great positive for me, you know, and this other guy. So we're looking at that really, but we'll be doing as I'm going back to like my original saying, we'll be doing it but separately, you know, but we're both looking to source certain products and supply people with things. And yeah, none of us know, mate, down the track what's going to happen. We've just got to keep strong and hopefully protect us families, and then we all stay healthy, and then we can. If you're healthy, you live to fight another day, don't you? You know, and that's. But I'm fairly laid back about stuff and philosophical that we'll get through it, but it won't be the same. I think you're right.
Yeah, no, work's going to change, absolutely. I mean, yeah, that's a wrap from us then. Probably thank you so much for your time. What we like to do with our guests is just finish with a couple of quick fire questions if we can. So I've got a couple for you, to see what we get from you. So, who's the most influential person you've met in your life from a life perspective, not necessarily business?
I'd say the person, and he'll find this amazing really, and he'll probably be a bit embarrassed about it. My father-in-law was in business, and he's played a massive. He probably don't realise it because he's old school. My father-in-law, you know, he's a working class Barnsley lad, and he don't wear his heart on his sleeve. He don't show his emotions, and he'll probably. And we have a great relationship. Don't get me wrong, but it's not schmaltzy. It's not probably the same relationship that I have with my sons. You know, because he's a bit difficult, but he set himself a business up when he was younger, did fabulously well, retired at a young age, and I like his ethics. I like how he conducts himself. You know, he's straight. He's not everybody's cup of tea, but he keeps his word. He's an hard worker, and he's been very successful. And he's acted like a father to me, and he'll probably not know that, but he's been a big mentor for me. So it's my father-in-law, Peter Croft.
Cool, yeah, nice. So in terms of the next one, Batley and Spen, if you could make one change tomorrow, what would that change be to make that a better place if you had the ability?
I'd like to heal some. This sounds a bit cliched, but there needs to be some healing, some coming together, and I believe that can be achieved through sport. You know, there's lots of different demographics within Batley and Spen. And we need to kind of like start talking to each other. There's a lot of mistrust on equal sides, and I think through sport that can be changed. So I'd like to focus that through sports by getting different communities together, playing cricket, playing rugby, whatever, you know. So just to bring people together. And you know, we're not always going to agree. That's fine, but at least people need to understand what people are saying from both sides.
And finally then, Paul, what's the biggest achievement in your career today?
Oh, my family.
Yeah.
My family. My best decision in my life ever was meeting my wife, and the biggest decision ever was her agreeing to marry me, and after that, obviously, as family. So, and it's everything. And I don't think I've lost money. I know for a fact that I could have earned a lot more money if I'd have done certain things and put my family second. But listen, they may say whatever, they may say we missed out on this, but I don't think they did. I've always been there. I've been every sports day. I've been every parents' evening. I've not made any excuses, you know, because I've wanted to play an active part, because it's very easy for families, because what normally happens is you go to a parents' evening, there's always my mum's there, you know, and the dads are working over, and I understand that if they're in a manual job, you know, they're doing overtime, but I've been fortunate that what having my own business has allowed me to do is to say, right, I finish here and I'll go there, I'll work this time, and flexible hours. But yeah, my family.
Yeah, that's been brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us today, Paul. What I've taken a number of things from this, but I think the thing that really stands out for me about you and some of our other guests as well, in fairness, is positivity. But the strap line of, you know, don't die wandering. I think that's something I'll take away from this. Very positive. And secondly, just throwing up, you know, being focused. When you're going to have a go at something, stick 110% into it. So yeah, I think that'll resonate with a lot of people. But thank you for your time, and take care.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you, Gareth. Cheers.